You and I are in Kaohsiung's Central Park. I really like this park. We're going to find some shade because it is bright out. And we're going to talk about blockade on Taiwan, if the CCP can actually blockade Taiwan. A blockade is basically when a country physically stops another country or another region from getting supplies, from people being able to move in and out, trade coming in and out. And the short answer is that yes, China has a powerful enough Navy and a powerful enough Air Force to where they can blockade Taiwan. But the long answer is that an extended blockade would be an enormous mistake for China. It would be a terrible idea. It could even cost the CCP all of its power. It would be a really, really bad idea for basically 3 reasons. No, you know what? I think actually basically 4 reasons. I'm going to add a reason. The first reason that trying to blockade Taiwan would be a really bad idea is because it would severely harm China's reputation with the rest of the world. And this is at a time when China is trying to repair its relationship with the rest of the world. They've already lost more foreign investors than they have at any other point in history. They've been offering a lot of open visas so that they can get more tourists and more people to come in and spend their money in China. So doing something as aggressive as blockading Taiwan would have a really bad look in the eyes of the rest of the world. It could turn away tourism and foreign investment. Blockading Taiwan would send the exact opposite message that they're trying to convey to the rest of the world, that China is a safe place to do business. The second reason that blockading Taiwan would be an enormous mistake for China is because such a huge military operation would be enormously expensive. It would be a huge maintenance and fuel cost to keep all those ships operating around Taiwan and all the jet aircraft operating around Taiwan, trying to enforce a no-fly zone. Super expensive. Additionally, it would increase the cost of any trade going through the Strait of Taiwan because it would increase the cost of insurance for all of those cargo ships. This would increase the cost of all the goods coming into China and into Japan and into South Korea. Currently, China's economy is on the brink of a depression. They can't afford to mess with world trade like this. They just can't afford to do it. Also, China would lose all the business that it does with Taiwan, which is not a small part of China's economy. That would be a significant loss. Okay, reason number 3 that blockading Taiwan would be a huge mistake is because China itself is very, very vulnerable to a blockade. Out of all the major economies in the world, China is the most dependent on foreign trade. It would be very easy for the United States to block the trade routes that go into China by blocking off the Strait of Malacca or the North Sea route. I mean, the North Sea route goes by Alaska and by Japan. And yes, the U.S. would absolutely get involved. Taiwan is too important to the U.S. It is a huge source of trade, $160 billion a year in trade. And Taiwan makes things that are very difficult to make anywhere else in the world. All the high-end semiconductors, like 40% of the screws and nuts and bolts in the U.S. are made in Taiwan, just south of this city. And trying to disrupt America's economy, America's money, that's a huge mistake. They will absolutely get involved. This would be catastrophic for the CCP, just catastrophic. Even though China does have oil pipelines, crude oil pipelines connecting China to Russia and China to Myanmar, those pipelines only supply about 20-25% of China's crude oil needs. So there would be a huge fuel shortage. And like we already mentioned, trying to keep all of the jets flying over Taiwan and all of the ships sailing around Taiwan to blockade trade, this would be a huge fuel cost. So the cost of fuel in China would drastically rise as their supply plummets and their demand increases. A country needs fuel to maintain its economy and to feed its people. All that farming equipment runs off of fuel. So it would just be a devastating mistake to try and blockade Taiwan for an extended time, because the same thing could happen to China. Blockading is a long process. It would give the U.S. and its allies a lot of time to prepare and set up and respond. So the response from America and America's allies, Taiwan's allies, could be completely devastating to the Chinese economy. It could even trigger a famine, but definitely a depression. Okay, last reason, fourth reason why blockading Taiwan would be just a massive mistake, just a huge mistake for China. There would be no good way for China to end the blockade. Either they back away quickly and it's an embarrassment. They try and stick out the blockade and it devastates their economy, maybe even causing a famine. Or three, it escalates into a war. A blockade is considered an act of war. And if they've been blockading for a while, again, that's just given the U.S. and all of its allies plenty of time to prepare for a war, which is not something you want to do. And a war would very feasibly end the CCP. All right, I want to make just one last thing clear to you, and that is that I'm making these videos because I want to show the world that Taiwan is actually safe. Even though many mainstream media wants to tell you otherwise. No, Taiwan is a safe place. It's safe to travel to, it's safe to live in, it's safe to work in, it's beautiful. You should check it out. If you found this video useful, you should check out this playlist because it has more geopolitical reasons why Taiwan is actually safe. And please consider subscribing and liking and sharing. Thanks. And of course, a super big thank you to all my supporters on Patreon and the channel members. You are awesome. You are the best. All right, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Peace. Let's hope there's peace in the world. Love. Bye-bye.